Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Intiman, and today I'm going to be looking at the professional teaching standards for Grand Canyon University for the course SEC-502 with Professor David Stewart. Let's get started. So, do teachers need standards? The quick answer is yes. Standards help keep teachers professional and allows them to take and maintain professional responsibility. It also helps them create and implement curriculum appropriate for their students. However, depending on the teacher's location and their subject, the standards are set by the professional or national board and committee organizations. In a study conducted by Holly Hunker-Kirscher and Amy Vetter in 2017, they actually talked about how standards help. They followed two novice teachers over the course of 2 years and found that between the two teachers, 3 things were very common. Both teachers taught differently within their classrooms, both pushed for post-secondary education for their students, and they faced the same challenges within the standards they were given. What that means is, while this study focused on state standards, it shows that the teachers didn't follow or even touched on the state standards they were given. This being said, if teachers are expected to follow their own teaching standards from a collaboration standpoint, they should also focus on meeting their state standards and their post-secondary education. By combining the core standards and the state standards, this would create a lot less stress. So looking at the standards, firstly is the INTASC, or the Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium. And this is an organization aiming to improve and explain the teaching and learning of all levels of instruction. So each course standard reflects on how the teacher is to work within the classroom. The first course standard, being the learner and learning, talks about how the teacher develops their learning standards based on the students' needs and the environment that they're in. The second is the content, and that's basically the teacher's knowledge of the content and how they apply the content to real-world applications and assessing how the students interpret the content of the lesson. The third standards are the instructional practices, and this is where the teachers make improvements on their lessons based on the assessments they get from their students, as well as other feedback that they gain from the community around them, including the students, their families, and of course their colleagues. The final core standard is their professional responsibility, and this really shows what the teacher is capable of in terms of how they teach in their classrooms, both from an ethical standpoint and an academic. So I want to be an English teacher, so as that standard, I fall under the NCTE, or the National Council of Teachers of English Standards. And this program or organization is devoted to improving the teaching and learning of English and the language arts at all education levels. So what this means is there are 7 standards, and each standard reflects on how the teacher maintains their classroom. So the first standard actually talks about how the teacher actually knows what they're talking about in terms of how they utilize different multimedia text. The second standard has to do with more of a discussion-based content within the classroom and how to include content within language and writing. The third standard is more on how students comprehend through assessments. The fourth standard talks about promoting assessments through oral, visual, and written categories. So this would mean PowerPoints or a poster or an exam or a potluck if it's more of a cultural examination. The fifth standard talks about more research-based instruction, which is seen more in the higher secondary education like college professors, but it's still a great opportunity for teachers to utilize within the high school or secondary education as it helps the students understand content-based information. The sixth standard is how it's all connected, how different aspects and theories are pulled together and makes the information accessible for students. The final standard just shows how teachers can actually teach by putting everything together and being able to work with colleagues and the students to gain a leadership role. So some commonalities I saw were that in the INTASC standards 1 and 6, they're very similar or parallel to the NCTE standards 3 and 4. Both expect the teachers to meet all their students' needs through classwork, either individual or group work, through discussions and assessments. And then the second commonality is between the INTASC standards 5 and 10 and the NCTE standards number 7. This is where teachers need to know their students, community, family, and colleagues, and be able to engage with the classroom, not just by themselves. This also is where teachers make that bridge between the lessons in the classroom and real-world events, and why this content matters, and by introducing new ideas. And these are my references. Thank you for listening to me talk. Have a great day.